Fly Bold podcast. I'm your resilient host, Stasea. In today's podcast titled, I Am Here For You, we will begin discussing the first resilience type, relational resilience. Relational resilience is defined as your greatest motivation to make good decisions, put more effort into life, and not give up with the knowledge that others depend on you. You also draw strength from the emotional support of friends, family members, deceased loved ones, a pet, or even a stranger who smiles your way. With me today I have Roxanne, an associate family and marriage therapist, Linda, a transfer graduate student, and Clarissa, an undergrad human services student. Let's go. So let's go ahead and just get started. So we know what relational resilience is, and we kind of talked about like how to access it as a result connects to flipping the switch. But I would like to hear your stories or how you connect to relational resilience in your own life.
So for me, when I remember or think of relational resilience, I think about a story when I was at community college. I was just getting back into fixing my grades and figuring out, hey, I want to be a psychology student. There's a really big club that's in different, I believe, different CSUs. It was called Active Minds, and we had a little local chapter at that community college, and I happened to go around at some club, hey, like join this club kind of event, and there was a man there, and I went up there and I asked about the club, and it was the Active Minds Club, and he said, hey, you're a psychology student, maybe you should run for president because we need somebody that's new. And at that community college there wasn't a whole lot of psychology students, so coming across somebody that was a psych student, it was like, oh, you should be in this club. And it totally makes sense, but at that time I was living with my ex, and I realized now it was domestic violence. That relationship was not healthy, and I went home and I was excited. I was like, hey, I'm gonna go and try to run for president in this club. And he's like, I just remember he was telling me that you shouldn't do that, like you need to focus on your grades, or like you can't do that, like it's just not a good idea. And it's just not a good idea, and I did it anyways. Like I ended up going to the club meeting, and I ran, and it was, I won. I was the only one that wanted to be present, but still it meant a lot to me. Like I wanted to be there and be a part of something, and it meant a lot. Like I could go to that club and escape from the toxic environment that I was living with. And eventually the next semester, through the support of that club and my therapist and going to a domestic violence workshop, I was like, wow, like it's time for me to leave this relationship. So for me, that whole experience and being in that club was my resilience to move on and get out of that relationship.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, so for me, I feel like again, this is Roxanne. For me, I feel like I can relate to the idea of relational resilience with personal stories as well as with transferring. I've transferred student over and over again. I started off with my associates at a community college, moved away from where that community college is, started over, and came here at Cal State Fullerton for my bachelor's. And then once I graduated here, I moved again to get my master's. And each time, not only was I changing colleges, I was also changing location. Yeah. I was, in a new city each time. Granted, they were all around Southern California, but, each city has its own community, or many communities. There's all these nuances within each city. And getting to know that and make it feel like you're home and feel like I can feel connected in this community is kind of a challenge because, again, it touches back on that self-awareness of like, who am I, right? So each time it was difficult to adjust, but I did it with being able to find essentially the things that I did connect with, the things that would pull out the positive things in me that I didn't know existed. So I was like kind of relearning myself each time while still bringing the old me or like the core me at the same time. So I'm still learning because I, moved again 2 or 3 years ago, and then we're probably going to be moving again pretty soon. So, and then of that, I think one really great example of being able to like look at a face that depends on you or pulls that strength from within you when you don't feel like you have it is being a mother. I love being a mother. It's challenging, it's exhausting, it's draining, but it's beautiful because my son looks at me and he depends on me. He sees me and sees strength when I don't see it. So me being able to see his eyes looking at me and watching what I do it brings me back to earth, and it makes me realize, oh, I'm now doing this not only for myself, but also for my son. He's really looking to me as this is what it means to survive. This is what it means to thrive. So, yeah, thank you, son.
Thank you for sharing.
I just wanted to comment too. I think now having my experience of moving, I was like, that is so true. Like trying to figure out what's okay and not okay in the new place, and what's safe and unsafe, or where is myself and my old self, and is that still there?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I experienced that the whole picture there when I moved in August. So
yeah, and you're right. Like knowing like where's my old self and my new self, and how do I marry those together?
Yeah.
Like how do I come to peace with still respecting the old me and then loving this new part of me. So
it's very interesting. It's very dynamic, and I don't know. It's like that self-exploration. You kind of have to be open to it, and I think it's a very fun time. Thank you for sharing. Let's see. So, relational resilience as it relates for me. I'm not a mother, but I do have a small dog. And I know it's nothing to compare, but he does allow me to exercise this relational resilience in the sense that on days where I feel down and don't want to go outside and I'd rather just lay in my bed all day, he wakes me up. As soon as he feels me shuffle around, he's like on my chest like, hey mom, time to wake up. He's a small little Yorkie. He's sweet. Sweetest little boy I've met. He just allows me to keep moving forward, because on the days that I don't want to go outside, on the days that I want to give up, on the days that I want to leave, I thought about leaving school multiple times this past semester of 2018, and it was really hard. But to have him there really helped me. Just knowing that, he is someone that depends on me, so I have to feed him and walk him. So it also allowed me to build a schedule, morning and night feed him, morning and night walk him. And it allowed me to build other things on top of that for myself, like building in self-care time, and it allowed me to build in time for me just to have a nap, things to do for myself that allows me to move forward. Because I think the sense of resilience is one thing that I want to be clear is I don't think that it's having a resilience and just keep going forward like we're machines, because we're not. I think that resilience is acknowledging when you need that break, taking that break to recuperate, and then continue move forward.
Right.
And that's one thing that he definitely has taught me, because when I'm out there in life grinding, getting my classes done, getting my homework done, readings done, taking care of other things that I have to in my personal life. When I go home and I'm with him, you know, he helps me ground and reconnect with myself. And so that's how I would relate to relational resilience.
Yeah. And I want to validate that so much for you, because you were saying, like, it doesn't compare to motherhood. Well, it is motherhood.
Yeah, he's looking at me like, are you going to feed me?
Are you going to care for me? And it takes nurturing. It takes time. It takes, like, you know, it's expensive having a dog. So, you know, you got to take them to the vet. You got to know exactly, like, what are their allergies and things like that. And that pulls you back out. It's that, you know, this is something that you relate to. This is something that pulls those strengths of knowing those things. And like you said, building that schedule to spend enough time doing that for your fur baby.
Yeah.
You know, and that is just as much of a legitimate experience as it would be for my son.
Yeah,
you know, my
you.
son's really basic too. You know, he needs his diaper changed. He needs to be fed. So, but it definitely, like, brings you back to, like, those human connections and that human need of, like, oh, I need to tend to these things because someone's depending on me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is Clarissa.
Welcome.
I feel that relational resilience in my life has gone back to that whole thing of trying to keep your core, but adjusting as you become in new spaces and you're trying to grow and develop. So for me, I saw relational resilience when I first started out going to college, and it was a choice to go to college because I wanted to also break the generational trauma that had been going on in my family. So I made the decision to take a route that had not been taken and pursue a college degree, an associate's degree in psychology to study why the heck my family behaves the way they do. And as I became in the college space, I became fearful of success because I was afraid of losing those relational connections to my family, which drove me to going to college. But as I was in community college, I began to develop mentorship with some of the people that work there, and I joined a program called the Student Diversity Success Initiative, which helped other first-generational students, and that became my new family in the college setting. And I feel that that's kind of what helped push me through in my times at community college. And then as I developed relationships once I transferred and found new mentors and new groups that I could relate to, that became my new relational resilience within the transfer space. But I keep holding on to my core and why I began in the first place and what got me started, and that's to break generational cycles and to stop those things. So I kind of intertwine those different spaces of how I've used relational resilience into how I'm gonna move forward and keep my core of those relationships that I've had and develop new ones, so that way I stay resilient in my new spaces.
Yeah, that's really well put.
Yeah. I think it's lovely that we as human beings have that capacity to maintain relationships. They're so important. Whether it's with a small child or with a dog or with family members or, you know, fellow students or peers, those relationships are so vital. And like Roxanne mentioned earlier, like finding your tribe, I think is important too, you know, because those people or animals allow us to, you know, hone into that beauty. That relationship has a capacity to fill us. To me, it's mystical because relationships offer so much. It's almost like therapy to me sometimes when I spend time with friends and family and I'm able to express myself. And so getting into that space of having those relationships and maintaining them and the beauty that comes from it, it's not that it's just, it feels good to like have someone to talk to, but they also allow us to like move forward and utilize that energy that we get from the relationship to be resilient.
Yeah. That's a good point. And it also makes me think, as you were talking, it makes me think about, also knowing you have a tribe.
Yes.
Finding your tribe, but also knowing that there's tribes, there's aspects of your tribe that already exist. And I'm actually an introvert. I'm very much an introvert, and it takes for me, it's not that I want to be alone, but I appreciate my solitude. That's where I gain my energy back and I have time to reflect. But then at the same time, I know as an introvert, I still need that connection. I still need, as a human being, to feel like I relate to something I can bounce back off of. Yeah. So, that was a really good point.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about your tribe. Because, like, when I first started thinking about that, I wasn't quite sure, like, my tribe, what's that? How would you describe, like, what made you acknowledge, like, oh, this person is a part of my tribe?
It was just like this deep connection, a deep appreciation of what we had. It was something quality. And the thing is, like, you also remember that different friendships serve different purposes, right? Yeah. So, like, I might go to my husband, who I tell it's like word vomit, like, I just tell him everything and anything, and it's just like, wow, you know everything about me. And then I go to my son for that, like, recharge, right? He's like, oh God, he's a 2-year-old. He is in the terrible twos, transitioning to three-nager. So it's, I have to keep up with him, but then I need that in my life. Yeah. He's part of that tribe that reminds me, like, I have that energy inside of me. I have that fun. I have that child inside of me. Yeah. And then also my dog. My dog is part of that tribe as well, and she sees everything that we've been through, and, like, knowing that we have that connection with her, and she appreciates us for us, and we appreciate her for her. Right. She becomes part of that tribe.
That's beautiful, especially, like, accepting where people are at or where they're at. And like, oh, you accept me for who I am, and I accept you for who you are. I think that's, like, so important.
Right. Yeah, and you pull that from different relationships that you have, And I'll even touch a little bit on, like, being an introvert has allowed me to discover how much I love being in nature. And that can be part of your tribe as well. I know it's not like a live person or an animal, but it's something that makes you feel connected.
Right. Yeah.
It brings you back to that feeling of, like, this is where this is where I feel like I'm me. This is where, like, something understands me for who I am.
Right. Yeah. So, I love that, the grounding nature. What about you, Linda? How do you define someone that's part of your tribe?
I think when I think about that, I think about, like, a mutual respect, or, like, wanting and support. Yeah. So similar to what you said, like, people that are supportive, I think you expressed something like that. If people are caring and want to see the best in me, like, you're my chosen tribe. I want you to be a part of it and be in my life. And also, different people serve different kinds of support too. Yeah. There's sometimes you can turn to people where you can go and have fun and have coffee, and other people we can turn to have more deeper conversations and support. I liked how you brought up nature, because I feel like I can just be and connect, and for me that's like.
Thank you all for listening to this segment of the mini-series. Next, we have a short 90-second story from one of our bold scholars.
Hi, my name is Sandra Rivera Gomez, and I will be talking about relational resilience, which is the biggest motivation to not give up is the knowledge that others depend on you. It's the strength that you gain from others, and it's the power that you realize that you get from other human connections. So how I connect this to me is by first, I'm the first girl in my family, and I'm a first generation student, meaning that in my culture there's a lot of expectations because I'm a girl and I had to help at home. Second, when I graduated community college, one of my uncles told me that I was el orgullo de la familia, meaning that I was a pride of joy of my family because I was the first one to graduate from a higher ed institution. I had to continue and not give up because I am the example for not only my sisters, but for my little cousins that will follow my footsteps. I am the one who changed the conversation from are you going to college to where are you going to college. I am setting the standards for my sisters and my little cousins to follow because I want them to be better than me.
Thank you all for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed listening to our podcast about relational resilience. We will catch you next time on the As Told by Bold podcast, a mini-series.